Hi, Mark Robertson back with you here on Mark Robertson Talks. Today's subject, Joe Biden. What a nightmare. The first 2 months of the fraudulently installed president. The election was stolen from President Trump, and now we get this. So the Democrats steal the election and destroy the country, basically. He's been such a disaster, but it's all by design. He wants to basically bring down the country and bring us down to size. It's these Democrats destroy everything they touch. Where do we start? I guess the border is a good place to start. It's a total catastrophe right now. It's a catastrophe of biblical proportions. Biden essentially welcomed everybody to the border. Come on in. And it's all about getting future Democrat voters. They're busing them. They don't care about the COVID or the China virus. They're busing them to states, largely red states, so they can dilute the voting there and make us one big blue country. They want to make the whole country like inner cities, all one party rule, which will destroy the country. These Democrats are vile human beings. They've been radicalized. They want to destroy the country, and they are doing it with the border. We essentially don't have a southern border right now. Now, Biden did hold a press conference where he totally lied about everything. During the Trump era, they criticized him for kids in cages, and they used pictures from the Obama era to claim that he had kids in cages, and he ended it. Well, Biden has made it much worse. Some of these places are holding 1,000% of what they're supposed to be holding, and these kids are in squalor, and the media is largely covering it up. It is a nightmare in this country right now. The leftist media and Biden and the Democrats are literally trying to bring down the country and to make us all wards of the state so they can control us and be in power. It's all about power. These people couldn't care less about the people at the border for humanitarian reasons or the children. I mean, these are the people that support the killing of 3,000 kids a day in this country. So 1 million a year. And by abortion. So they don't care about kids. It's all a show. It's all about power. Most of these people aren't qualified to do anything else, so they're in political office to keep their power so they can get the gravy flowing. Joe Biden is worth tens of millions of dollars, and he's done it on a Senate salary of about 40 years and a vice president's salary. It's crazy. He's got 4 or 5 houses, all lavishly furnished. His son, Hunter Biden, got a percentage of all the money he essentially stole from the Ukraine and China and got it to the big guy, got about 10% to the big guy. So it's a crime family in the White House. Biden family is a crime family, essentially, running this country. And where to start? The borders, he started right there. The first day, he opened the borders. Stop building the wall. How many people did he put out of work not building the wall? And there's lawsuits of that saying he really didn't have a right to do that because the money has already been allotted. It's crazy. We are under attack right now from within the country. The Democrat Party is attacking us, and Joe Biden is leading it. He just signs his name away and gets rid of more freedoms by the day. And so how do they want to do it? They also they're basically admitting there's a bill called H.R. 1 for the people. I mean, it's kind of like East Germany calling itself the Democrat Republic of East Germany, the German Democrat Republic. The GDR. These communists use all kinds of fancy words to make things sound good. But for the people, essentially takes away the vote in this country. It's nothing short of that. It's the Democrat elected for life bill. It takes away the rights of the states to run elections. And that's what was enshrined in our Constitution. The state legislatures are in charge of elections. Yes, the Constitution does give the Congress authority over elections to make sure these states don't run renegade, but this goes around it so much, and it just essentially shuts out the states and the elections and federalizes it. So Nancy Pelosi will essentially be running the elections, and it is an admission that they stole the election. What is it? It takes away voter ID. Voter ID. This is the whole crazy thing. You got to have a voter ID to get a COVID test, and you got to have a voter ID to get on an airplane. You got to have a voter ID or a picture ID, I should say, to do about anything in this country. Of course, to buy a gun, things like that, to buy alcohol. And so they want to take that away. So in other words, anyone can just basically come in on the street. They don't even need proof of citizenship. So again, why do you think they're having all these people come into the country right now? They want to get them to vote because they got it worked out where you get a driver's license for illegals. Yeah, they got to do that. And then you can register to vote if you have a driver's license. So it's crazy, but you don't even need to show that when you go to vote on election day. And they're going to have same day registration. What could go wrong? I mean, these people are power hungry mad. This is not a two-party system anymore. This is the Republican Party, which are largely weak and don't have a clue what they're up against, versus the oppressors, the Stalinist Party, the Democrats. They want to control us. They want to squash our powers that are given to us in the Constitution. They really are bad people. I mean, we live in the United States of America. We can't imagine a people this bad in power. But here we are. And the election was stolen. And there's so many things that could have been done better. The state legislatures, most of them Republican in these battleground states, they just cowered out. There was corrupt courts and all these other things. And the election thus was stolen. And here we are. Our country is being taken away from us. But they basically just want one-party rule. And they're not basically allowing, like I say, any dissent. And they don't even want signature verification. And they're going to, of course, start the mail-in ballots. So they're going to mail out a bunch of ballots like they did last time. And people are going to mail them back in. Who knows who voted for them? So many people from out of state. So many people voted twice. So many dead people voted. It's ridiculous. It was stolen in so many states and big cities around the country. And in Detroit and Philadelphia and other Atlanta, they wouldn't even let people, Republican poll watchers in. In Atlanta, they kicked people out. They said there was a plumbing problem, a water main break. So they kicked people out. Well, there was no water main break. And then in the middle of the night, they put all these ballots from underneath tables. So there's so much corruption, especially in these big cities. And it was stolen there. These elections were stolen in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, probably Las Vegas, Phoenix, and no doubt other cities as well that are nearly well over 90% of the major cities in this country are run by Democrats. However, in this election in Detroit, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, Joe Biden won big. But in all the other big cities, the top 50 cities, he didn't win. So he didn't win as near the margin that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama won. So it's obvious right there. And also, ballot harvesting will continue as well. That's another scam that goes on in California. In California, there's so much corruption there as well. It's basically third world out there. It's a beautiful state, but it's a nightmare. These leftists that run it, it's one-party rule, and the Republicans basically had no say at all because it's a filibuster-proof House and Senate there. They basically can do whatever they want to do, and it's a mess. And if you'd like to learn more about what this H.R. 1 bill is, the Heritage Foundation has done a great job on that. So just Google that, Heritage Foundation, H.R. 1, the disaster that it is. You can read all about all the things. It basically takes away power from the states and takes away power from the people, actually. And then there's this nightmare called the Equality Act. It is essentially a break from God. These Democrats are Marxist. What do? They want to get rid of God. And that's they can't have that. God is a foundation of society, so they got to break down the foundations. And so this Equality Act is another fancy term. Who could be against equality? Well, equality or egalitarianism has been a tool of despots and tyrants throughout time. And they're basically kicking God out of the country. And our nation was founded on a foundation of God by godly men. And Jerry Nadler recently said on the floor of the House that the will of God is no concern with Congress. I mean, this really is Stalinistic. That Jerry Nadler is a total lowlife. These people, these Democrats, they are really bad people. And they hate God. They kill children. So nothing they do, stealing an election is no big deal. But this Equality Act, it gets into all this gender madness, which is also about power and control. It's really, when you break it down as well, it's an admission that they don't want there to be a God. They think, well, we can control our gender. We can change if we want. And so there's no God. There's no God telling us that we're male or female. It's all a personal choice, which is madness, which is tyranny, which is a grave threat to this country, this gender confusion madness. There's no confusion. God made them male and female. And the left, the Democrats, they hate this. They can't have this. And like I say, it's this Equality Act is all about rejecting God's law. Now, what will that do, though? That means in hospitals or Catholic hospitals, although there aren't many actual Catholic hospitals anymore, the government has messed that up as well with all the restrictions with Medicare, Medicaid, and all this other garbage. They'll have to perform abortions, and they'll have to perform so-called transgender surgeries. They won't have a choice. So this is crazy. Religious liberty will be basically shot down in this Equality Act. So people who believe in God and traditional values, they're the ones who won't be equal. I mean, so the Equality Act is I would call it a joke, but it's deadly. And these people, they want to make abortion. They want to make us pay for abortions. They want to make it legal. They basically create pregnancy as a disease. And they also will force government schools to teach the corrupt gender ideology to first graders and kindergartners, things like this. It is just an absolute madness in this country. This is after they forced sex education on these government schools, that they warp the minds of kids with that they think there's a choice. Well, if you don't have sex, but if you're going to use this certain sort of birth control. These people are evil. They want to bring the country down, and they know that you can control people if you get their minds warped and get them perverted and control them with sexual promiscuity and things like this. It's what they're up to. They're just an evil communist force, and they're using all sorts of techniques, these Democrats. And the Equality Act is just another one. It's just absolute madness, and it's greatly destroying this country. So how else is Joe Biden destroying the country? Well, he's bankrupting it. They just passed that $1.9 trillion boondoggle with no Republican votes. And Kamala Harris, the Stalinist, who actually had a voting record in the Senate left of communist Bernie Sanders, she was broke the tie. She was the vote. And it actually, technically, she wasn't a senator from Alaska, had to go leave on a family emergency. But he knew that Kamala Harris would break the vote. And they just want to destroy the last holdouts of the LGBT revolution in that Equality Act. And they want to force Christians to violate their beliefs. And so it's a nightmare. And I'd read recently that the gentleman in Colorado who fought for years that he didn't have to make a wedding cake for a so-called same-sex marriage, the Supreme Court basically ruled in his favor. So he got out of that. But now there's another suit because he didn't want to make a gender transitioning cake. I mean, have we gone mad? Has society gone mad? It is corrupt. And so obviously they're specifically targeting him again. I mean, if you want some sort of cake like that made, there are places that will make it, but they obviously are targeting them because with the left, you can't disagree. They want to shut down all disagreement with their warped ideology, their deadly ideology. And what they're actually admitting is they know they're wrong. They're trying to quash any guilty conscience that they have. And they want to make you will follow our dictates or you will be punished. There was a guy I read about this week. He wants to punish all businesses who come up with the idea that the election was stolen. I mean, there are some real totalitarians in this home of the brave and the free, supposedly, but we've got some really bad people in this country, and most of them are in the Democrat Party, and virtually all elected Democrats in Congress and in the White House are bad people who want to bring grave harm to this country. And I was mentioning the 1.9 trillion boondoggle supposedly to help with the China virus. It's a total lie. Less than 9% of it helps actually directly with the China virus, and less than 1% with the vaccines. Thankfully, President Trump got the vaccines going miraculously in less than a year. He was ridiculed when he said he would do that, and when it was done, they don't give him any credit for it or anything. But the 1.9 trillion is basically to rescue the corruptly and badly run big cities, the blue cities and the blue states. It's so much corruption, 1.9 trillion. We can't afford it. We're $29 trillion in debt. But they send this all out. Pelosi got San Francisco about $500 million to rescue that poorly run city with feces on the street, rescue them out of their debt and deficit. And of course, they'll be back in it in a couple of years. They get these people. They don't know how to run a city. They can't do anything. The Democrats mess up everything. We would not have the vaccines now if Obama or Hillary or Biden were in the White House when the China virus hit our country, launched from China, probably on purpose. And the 1.9 trillion package, though, they claiming for the China virus, it's also about trapping more people on the welfare state. The Great Society, we spent 22 trillion on that and destroying our inner cities with that. And so now they want to trap more people on welfare and make them more wards of the state so they'll vote Democrat for their pittance. Really bad people. Like we said, this is what they did. This was what the war on poverty was all about. It was about keeping largely African Americans on the welfare plantation, because by paying women more to have babies as long as the father didn't stick around. So they're really vile human beings. This has been a motive or an operation for the Democrats for a long time. They need a new class of underclass, though, a new crop of them, and this is why they opened the borders. They want to get all these people in, get them on welfare, so we'll be paying trillions more for welfare for all these illegals and put them in all these government schools. It will be a catastrophe. These Democrats, they are no good. They don't care about the people in this country. They want to bring the country down. They don't want it to be the superpower in the world. Now, the answer to the immigration problem is get these countries, these hellhole countries in Central and South America, get them free market economies and get them going there, get those countries going strong. But these communist thugs that run those countries will have nothing to do with that. And of course, we're getting people from all over the world. Even people on the terrorist watch list are coming in. And so it is just all a catastrophe right now. And so what's Biden want to do after that? He claims a $3 trillion infrastructure bill. Well, it will end up being $5 trillion more. So we'll be well over $30 trillion in debt. It's just like Cloward and Piven. They wanted to overwhelm the country with debt and the welfare state. And that's what's happening. It won't be on infrastructure. It'll be more about paying off people. The 1.9 trillion, about 86 billion went to unions to help them pay their pensions. And in other words, they'll be able to give money to Democrat coffers. It'll be laundered back to Democrat coffers. So it's just all one big merry-go-round in the Democrat Party. And but they want $5 trillion more, and it isn't going to infrastructure. It's going to be more of these boondoggles, more paying off cities, more making the country all one big blue country. And there's nothing you can say good about these Democrats. They're just vile human beings who want to destroy the country. And another thing, now they want to get rid of the gig economy. You know, all these people driving Ubers, making money on the side, or even as their main job, or delivering food or delivering groceries, or just doing various other things. With the technology, they can use their cell phones. They can make good money doing that. Well, they want to end that. They want to make these companies hire these people and that's when they want to get them trapped on Obamacare is what that's all about. So that's another way they want to control us. So they're taking away our freedoms. They hate the free market. And of course, Biden, was the first thing he did in office, literally about the first thing he did was shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which killed 11,000 jobs directly, many paying in the six figures. And these are great jobs, but it killed tens of thousands of jobs indirectly. All these people who provide food or hotels or other things like that for these people on the Keystone Pipeline. And of course, gas was very low. It was around $2. It's going through the roof. I noticed at the grocery store just today, things cost much more. There's inflation in food now. Because if oil prices go up, gas prices go up, everything else goes up because it has to be shipped around. It is just crazy. And it's also inflation from putting all this money into the economy that's basically just printing paper money. There's nothing to back it up. They just print money. And this $5 trillion will do the same thing. It's going to be a disaster when they spend more money and they add $5 trillion more to the debt and have $30 trillion in debt. It's like I say, it's going to be inflation. It's like printing money. It's a nightmare. And these Democrats, they don't care. That's the thing that's one thing I've learned through all this COVID, all this China virus stuff. Democrats will have no problem with lying. It is breathtaking how they just out and out lie. hydroxychloroquine. Oh, that doesn't work. The real thing there is they didn't care about all these people dying. They just wanted to make sure that people couldn't get better during the Trump administration. That these people are evil. They are the evil empire, like Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union. And they don't care about people in this country. They care about power. They're power hungry. They're also money hungry. So they make a lot of money in their power because they get paid off because they promise they won't shake people down or destroy them. It's really an evil operation. And like you say, if you call them communists, they're not communists because communists kill. Well, they have no problem with 60 million babies being killed since Roe v. Wade passed. It's unconstitutional, but they have no problem with that. And if you try to stop that, the abortion industry is also a major funder for them. And what did supposed Catholic Biden do? One of his first things he did as well was basically to get rid of the Mexico City policy. And now abortions will flourish around the world, and U.S. taxpayers will be paying for it. So that's another thing. He calls himself a devout Catholic. It's ridiculous. And there have been some bishops speaking out, but overall, it's been crickets from the bishops, the Catholic bishops as well. That's another area. He's been a total disgrace. He's a totally fraudulent Catholic. He should not be allowed to receive the Holy Eucharist. He should not even be allowed on Catholic Church property, in my opinion. He's a disgrace there as well. Joe Biden is single-handedly ruining this country with the backing of people like George Soros, and he's bought off by China as well, no doubt, and all these other evil forces. And no doubt Obama is pulling strings behind the scenes as well. And it really isn't that much behind the scenes. He's very admitted he's talked to Obama quite often since he fraudulently was sworn in on January 20th. But we are in grave danger in this country right now with these Democrats in charge, especially if this H.R. 1 gets passed and the Equality Act, and if they keep spending money we don't have. It is a nightmare. It's by design. They want to bring this country down to size. They hate the fact that the U.S. is powerful. They hate the idea of a strong economy. President Trump got record low unemployment for African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, youth, high school grads, high school dropouts, and near record low unemployment for women. Women got over half of the new jobs, over 7 million jobs created under President Trump because of his tax cuts and regulation reduction. That's another thing. Biden wants to raise taxes, $2 trillion. That will stifle the economy as well. Everything they do is destructive, and nothing is reported in the media as being destructive. Our media is a disgrace. It's not even a media. It's people who sit in front of electronic machines and lie. They're propagandists. Goebbels would be proud of them. And they just are really bad people. And the media in this country they're just basically the same. The media and the Democrat Party are all one. They're all a bunch of leftists. They hate freedom. They hate free markets. They hate capitalism. They hate religion. They hate God. They hate anything related to the church. It's the Catholic Church. The true Catholic Church is such an enemy to these people. Why do you think Obama tried to shut down the Little Sisters of the Poor with his contraception mandates? That's a great obstacle. These people are vile. They're not good people. They're not. We shouldn't try to get along with them. Yes, we can pray that they are converted to reality someday and to goodness, but we can't get along with them. They have to be defeated, and we have to go at them every possible way we can. Now they want to get rid of the filibuster, which means that they can do things just with their 50 votes. They can destroy this country because they have their 50 votes. And people like Joe Manchin, who's largely, we have hopes in Joe Manchin, but he rarely comes through. I wouldn't put any trust in him holding out on this, the filibuster to get rid of it. And the senator from Arizona, Sinema, I don't know much about her, but the only way they can do it in either one of these places is if people there now, West Virginia, where Senator Joe Manchin is from, they had the highest percentage of vote for President Trump. It was over 70%. So they've got some power there where they can lean into him and tell him, you better handle that or you're gone. And he ought to be threatened by the Republican Party, saying that if you vote to get rid of this filibuster, we will pour all or almost all of our resources into defeating you. So that will have an effect. And the same thing for Sinema in Phoenix. However, I heard a situation about they need a quorum to get rid of the filibuster. And all of McConnell's actually been fairly strong on this, Senator Mitch McConnell, the House Minority Leader, saying that they could basically just not show up, and thus they won't be able to get rid of the filibuster if no Republican senators show up. Now you got Republican senators who aren't Republicans, like especially the worthless Murkowski in Alaska. What are you doing in Alaska? This is crazy. This woman is not a Republican. She's a disgrace. She's a liar. She's another fraudulent Catholic, and she destroys so much. She could have gotten rid of Obamacare, but no. She's just a weak and a fraud. And then you got Collins, and then you got Romney and a few others. But it's ridiculous. But if all the Republican senators hold and stay out, they won't be able to get rid of the filibuster. But then again, that's just the law, and that hasn't stopped Democrats before. So we are in a grave situation. Right now, the bully pulpit is what we have. High tech is trying to shut any conservative voices down as well, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or the other sites. But thankfully, there's some new platforms available now and more coming on. President Trump has one coming on shortly. And also Mike Lindell, I understand, of My Pillow is starting one as well. So my voice is going here, and I'm about done anyway. But as you can see, we are in grave trouble in this country with these Democrats in Congress. This isn't the Democrat Party of Harry Truman. It's not even the Democrat Party. This isn't even the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton, as corrupt as he was. Those people wouldn't even do this much damage to this country. We have reached a new era. These people have been radicalized largely by Obama, who was a far-left radical himself, who the media glorified as well. But we're in trouble, and we have to fight it every step of the way to save our country from these people, these evil forces that are now in charge in this country. And they will try to steal the next election, too. So these elections in these states have to be cleaned up by these Republican legislatures, and the forces have to be brought against them to get that job done. And we still have to find out what happened on November 3rd. We know what happened. The election was stolen, but we have to make it show that this on paper, that what was done and how the election was stolen from President Trump, and thus 75 to 80 million of us who voted for him. And like I say, this is not sugarcoating anything. We are in a grave situation in this country, and it has to be fought with prayer and actual words, and fight them every step of the way, because they will not relent a bit. They're all in unison. That's one thing about the Democrats. They stay together. We have various factions in the Republican Party and much weakness in the Republican Party. But these Democrats stick together with their corruption and fraud and destruction. That has to be stopped. We've got to fight it. And thank you for joining us this time on Mark Robertson Talks, and we will see you next time.